My wife called me dead weight in a company Slack message. Her boss laughed when I showed up to their product launch. They built a multi-million-dollar platform on code I wrote 12 years ago. She thought I'd never find out. She was wrong. At 4 p.m., I watched their empire collapse. My name is Neil Reynolds. I'm 47 years old, and I used to think building things quietly was a virtue. Turns out, in certain circles, it just makes you forgettable. I should have seen it coming. Maybe I did and just didn't want to admit it. Charlotte, my wife of 8 years, stopped looking at me about 2 years ago. Not physically. She still glanced in my direction when she needed something signed or wanted me to attend one of her company events. But that thing behind the eyes, that recognition that says, I see you, I know you, you matter to me, that disappeared like morning fog under a hot sun. Tonight was supposed to be her big moment. TechVan Solutions, the company she joined 10 months ago, was launching their revolutionary new platform. Synergy Flow, they called it. A decision-making algorithm that promised to transform how logistics companies operated. The ballroom at the Riverside Hotel in downtown Portland was packed with investors, tech journalists, and the kind of people who use words like disruptive and paradigm shift without a trace of irony. I stood near the back, nursing a glass of champagne that tasted like expensive disappointment. Charlotte was up front, laughing at something her boss said. Grant Hudson, the CEO, mid-40s, tennis tan, teeth so white they probably glowed in the dark. He had his hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd like she was his date instead of his marketing director. Who's that guy? I heard someone ask. One of the younger investors, probably fresh out of Stanford with daddy's money burning a hole in his pocket. Grant turned, flashed those teeth, and gestured vaguely in my direction. Oh, that's Charlotte's husband. He just tags along sometimes. Quiet guy, probably bored out of his mind. The group laughed. Not cruel laughter, just dismissive. The kind that says, how quaint, the little house husband came to watch his wife work. Charlotte didn't correct him, didn't even glance my way, just kept smiling, kept nodding, kept playing her part. I didn't correct him either. What would be the point? Instead, I set down my glass and walked toward the exit, past the catering tables loaded with prawns and phyllo triangles nobody was eating, past the photo booth with its branded backdrop, past the young tech bros taking selfies with the company logo. Nobody stopped me. Nobody noticed. Outside, the October air hit cold and clean. Portland at night, with its bridges lit up over the Willamette River, usually made me feel something. Tonight, it just looked like a postcard from someone else's life. I pulled out my phone, opened my messages, found the thread I needed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for just a moment. Then I typed 5 words and hit send at exactly 3:59 p.m. It's time. Execute the plan. That was it. That was all it took. I pocketed my phone and stood there, breathing in the river-scented air, watching the valets hustle back and forth with keys and tickets. One of them, a kid maybe 20, looked at me like he was trying to figure out if I needed help or was just another weird guest. I wasn't weird. I was just a man who'd finally stopped being invisible by choice and started being invisible by design. There's a difference, and Grant Hudson was about to learn exactly what that difference meant. The thing about building systems for a living is you learn to think in layers. You learn that the foundation matters more than the facade. You learn that what people can't see is often more powerful than what they can. And you learn, if you're smart, to always keep the kill switch in your own hand. Grant Hudson found me by the valet stand 5 minutes later. I heard his shoes first, expensive leather clicking against concrete with the rhythm of a man who'd never questioned his right to take up space. Hey, Neil, Grant called out, adjusting his collar like he was posing for a magazine shoot. You good, man? Nothing to say about all this. Big day for Charlotte. I turned slowly, studied his face. The kind of tan that came from golf courses and vacation homes, not actual work. Teeth that cost more than most people's cars. That little furrow between his eyebrows that meant he wasn't as relaxed as he wanted everyone to believe. I'm fine, I said. Kept my voice level, conversational. Just needed some air. He stepped closer, dropped his voice to that fake intimate tone men use when they think they're being magnanimous. Look, I know these events can be a lot. All the tech talk, the investor stuff. Charlotte's really in her element, you know? She's got a real future with TechVance. We're lucky to have her. Like she belonged to the company now, not to herself. Definitely not to me. I glanced at my watch. 4 p.m. in exactly 45 seconds. Grant, I said, meeting his eyes for the first time all evening. I sent one text. That's all. He blinked, smile faltering just slightly. What? Nothing to say? I asked, echoing his words back to him. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, too focused on trying to figure out what game I was playing. The phone buzzed again, insistent. I took one step closer, close enough that he had to look up slightly to maintain eye contact. Your phone will ring at 4 o'clock, I said quietly. You'll understand then. His phone started ringing. Not buzzing, ringing. The kind of call that bypassed do not disturb settings because it was marked urgent. Grant's hand moved automatically to his pocket, pulled out his iPhone. The screen showed a number he didn't recognize, but the caller ID read, Oliver Stone ESQ. Urgent legal matter. He looked at me. I looked at him. The color started draining from his face like someone had pulled a plug somewhere. Answer it, I suggested. Then I walked away, hands in my pockets, shoulders relaxed. Behind me, I heard him accept the call. This is Grant Hudson. I didn't need to hear the other side of the conversation. Oliver Stone was methodical, precise, the kind of lawyer who could explain your complete destruction in calm, measured tones that made it sound like a weather report. By the time I reached my car, Grant would understand exactly what he'd stolen, exactly who he'd underestimated, and exactly how much it was going to cost him. I unlocked my Tesla, slid into the driver's seat, and checked my phone. Oliver had already sent me a confirmation text. Document delivered. CEO received verbal notification. Compliance team copied. This is going to be spectacular. Through the parking garage, I could see Grant still standing by the valet stand, phone pressed his ear, one hand coming up to grip his forehead. His posture had changed completely. No more swagger, no more easy confidence. Just a man realizing the ground beneath him was never solid to begin with. 12 years ago, I built something beautiful in the detached garage behind our first house in Beaverton. Not the house I shared with Charlotte, the one before that. The one Rebecca and I bought when Lily was still in diapers, and we were young enough to think love and ambition could coexist without bloodshed. Rebecca understood code the way some people understand music. She'd sit on that old futon we dragged out there, feet tucked under her, reading legal documents while I wrote algorithms that could predict supply chain bottlenecks before they happened. We called it Beacon Core, and it was going to change everything. It did, just not the way we planned. Rebecca and I divorced when Lily was 6. Not because of anger or betrayal, nothing dramatic like that. We just wanted different things. She got an offer from a big IP law firm in San Francisco, international clients, constant travel. I was neck deep in code and couldn't imagine leaving Portland. We sat down one Sunday morning, drank coffee on the back porch, and decided we'd rather be good parents separately than miserable partners together. Best decision we ever made. Lily spent weekdays with me, weekends with Rebecca when she was in town. We stayed friends, real friends, the kind who still grabbed lunch and talked about more than just custody schedules. Beacon Core launched properly in 2013. I licensed it through a Delaware LLC called Redwood Technical Holdings. Buried it so deep in corporate paperwork that you need a treasure map and a law degree to trace it back to me. Non-exclusive licensing, reasonable fees, and one very specific clause that Rebecca helped me write. Clause 7. Any affiliated party, including spouses, domestic partners, or direct employees of licensees, contributing to derivative works without explicit written authorization from the licensor, will trigger immediate termination of all usage rights and penalties as defined in subsection C. Subsection C was the hammer. Immediate cessation of commercial operations, return of all profits generated, and damages starting at $2 million. Rebecca had laughed when we finalized it. Nobody reads past page 10, Neil. You could hide a murder confession in here. That's the idea, I'd said. The license brought in steady money. Nothing spectacular, but enough to help Rebecca open her own practice when she moved back to Portland 3 years later. Enough to pay for Lily's private school. Enough that when I met Charlotte at a tech conference in 2017, I didn't look like just another struggling developer. Charlotte was fire back then. Smart, driven, full of ideas about how technology could transform marketing. She'd worked for a small agency in Seattle, was looking to make the jump to something bigger. We clicked immediately, married within a year, and I thought I'd found something real again. I showed her everything. My code, my licensing structure, the revenue stream that kept flowing quietly in the background. She'd been impressed, asked good questions, even proofread some documentation updates. Last month, I've been working late in my home office when a video popped up on my LinkedIn feed. TechVant Solutions was promoting their new platform, SynergyFlow, revolutionary decision-making algorithm, built in-house, ready to transform logistics management. I clicked play, watched Charlotte walk through the demo, gesturing at flowcharts and data streams. And there it was, hidden in the corner of one screenshot, a debug string that read core_module_BC09. BC. Beacon Core. They hadn't even bothered to scrub the module identifiers. I opened the repository logs that night. TechVant used GitHub Enterprise, and they've been sloppy about access controls. Charlotte's username appeared on 18 commits over the past 6 months, all in a branch labeled Legacy and Integration Inquiry Build. One of her commit messages read, stripped vendor tags from BC modules, repackaged as proprietary TechVant code. Another, updated core decision trees. Original architecture solid, just needs fresh branding. I sat in that office until 3 a.m., reading through her digital fingerprints all over my work. She hadn't stolen herself. TechVant had done the heavy lifting. But she'd known. She'd helped. She'd looked at the code I built, the license she'd seen, and decided it didn't matter. That's when I called Rebecca. "I need your legal brain," I said when she answered. "And maybe a drink." We met at a quiet bar in the Pearl District the next evening. I showed her everything, the commits, the module names, the timeline of Charlotte joining TechVant. Rebecca read through it all, her expression shifting from curious to grim. When she finished, she looked up at me with something like pity in her eyes. "Neil, this isn't just IP theft. Charlotte's name on these commits makes her an affiliated party under Clause 7. The moment she touched this code, she voided TechVant's entire license." "I know," I said. "Do you want me to handle this quietly? I can reach out to their legal team, negotiate a settlement." "No," I interrupted. "I want you to help me build a case. Everything documented, everything airtight. And when we're ready, I want it to hit like a meteor." Rebecca studied my face for a long moment. Then she smiled, not happy exactly, but satisfied. "Oliver Stone still owe you a favor." "Several." "Good. Let's burn this thing to the ground." Oliver Stone was 62 years old, semi-retired, and the most dangerous lawyer in Oregon when he wanted to be. He'd helped me set up Redwood Technical Holdings back in 2012, drafted the licensing agreements with the precision of a watchmaker building a bomb. When I called him 3 weeks ago and explained the situation, he'd been silent for almost 30 seconds. Then he laughed, low and dangerous. "They actually did it," Oliver said. "They actually triggered Clause 7. With my wife's help," I added. "Oh, Neil, this is going to be beautiful." We spent 2 weeks building the case. Rebecca handled the intellectual property documentation, tracing every line of code from Beacon Core to SynergyFlow. Oliver assembled the licensing violations, the breach notifications, the financial damages. I provided the commit logs, the repository access records, Charlotte's email trail. She'd been sloppy in ways that shocked me. Internal emails where she referred to legacy code from Neil's old project and assured the development team it was safe to use because I was not the confrontational type. One message to Grant Hudson, sent 2 months ago: "Don't worry about the license. I know the guy who wrote it. Trust me, he won't make noise. He never does." She was right about one thing. I never made noise. I made earthquakes. The documentation package we sent to TechVant was 9 pages of legal precision. Page 1, Statement of Breach, citing specific code modules by their original Beacon Core identifiers. Page 2, Repository log showing Charlotte's username across multiple commits involving derivative works. Page 3, the original licensing agreement, notarized and timestamped November 2012. Page 4 through 6, Charlotte's emails, her commit messages, her digital confession spread across internal communications. Page 7, Clause 7, highlighted in yellow, with subsection C circled in red. Page 8, financial analysis showing TechVant had generated approximately $3.2 million in pilot contracts and investor commitments based on SynergyFlow. Page 9, Oliver Stone's signature, my signature, and a deadline. Immediate cessation of all commercial operations using Synergy Flow, full disclosure to investors and clients, and an initial settlement offer of $4.5 million. We sent it at 3:59 p.m. on the day of their launch event. Timed it perfectly so Grant would be mid-celebration when his world exploded. Oliver had insisted on calling Grant personally. I want to hear his voice when he realizes what happened. Is that cruel? It's thorough, I'd said. Now, sitting in my car, watching the parking garage through my rearview mirror, I saw Grant stumble backward against a concrete pillar. His phone was still pressed to his ear, but his other hand clutched at his chest like his heart was trying to escape. My phone buzzed. Text from Oliver. He's asking if there's any way to fix this. I told him yes. Time travel. I smiled despite myself. Started the engine. There was nothing left to see here. The mechanism was in motion, and mechanisms don't stop just because someone finally notices them. I drove home slowly, taking the long way along the river. The October sunset painted the water orange and gold. Lily would be home from school soon. Rebecca was picking her up, bringing her over for dinner like we'd planned before any of this started. My daughter didn't know yet what her stepmother had done, but she would soon enough. Kids always figure things out faster than adults gave them credit for. My phone rang as I pulled into the driveway. Rebecca, Grant Hudson just called me, she said without preamble. He somehow got my number, begging me to intercede, to talk sense into you. What did you tell him? I told him I'm not your handler. I'm your co-parent. And then I told him that if he ever calls this number again, I'll add harassment to the list of complaints. She paused. Neil, Charlotte's going to know it was you. I'm counting on it, I said. She's going to be at the house eventually. There's going to be a confrontation. I know. I turned off the engine, sat in the quiet garage. Rebecca, can you keep Lily with you for a few days? Just until this settles. Already planned on it. She's got a bag packed. We'll do a movie marathon. Maybe hit the coast for the weekend. You're a good mother. I learned from a good father, she said softly. Be careful, Neil. Cornered animals bite. So do quiet, man, I replied, when they finally have a reason to. The call came to TechVant's executive team at 4:37 p.m. Grant Hudson, still pale and shaking, had assembled everyone in the main conference room. Charlotte sat near the head of the table, confused but not yet afraid. That would change. I know this because Nathan Pierce, my old college roommate and TechVant CFO, recorded the whole thing. We'd been friends for 25 years, and I'd called him 2 days before the launch with a simple question. Did you know they stole my code? Nathan had gone silent. What are you talking about? I'd sent him the documentation. He called back an hour later, voice tight with anger. Grant told me this was developed in-house. He told all of us that. Charlotte knew where it came from, I'd said. Jesus, Neil. This is going to destroy the company. I know. Now, Nathan sat at that conference table and watched it happen. He sent me updates via text every few minutes, clinical and devastating. Grant just told everyone. Charlotte's face went white. Legal counsel says we have no defense. The documentation is airtight. Charlotte's trying to claim she didn't know about the license restrictions. Grant just showed everyone her emails. She's trapped. The meeting lasted 47 minutes. By the end, TechVant's head of legal had delivered the verdict. Immediate suspension of all Synergy Flow operations, full disclosure to investors, and Charlotte's termination effective immediately. Grant had tried to save face, suggested Charlotte take a voluntary leave of absence while they investigated the matter internally. The legal counsel had shut that down instantly. She's an affiliated party who knowingly contributed to derivative works using licensed code. She's not a liability, Mr. Hudson. She's the cause. If she stays in this building another hour, our legal exposure triples. Nathan texted, security is being called. They're going to escort her out. Grant looks like he aged 10 years. Another text. Charlotte just asked if she could speak to you. Grant told her you're not her husband anymore. You're the plaintiff. She started crying. I sat in my home office, Lily at Rebecca's place for the weekend, and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just the hollow certainty that comes from watching something inevitable finally happen. My phone rang. Charlotte. I let go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. 6 more times over the next hour. I didn't answer any of them. Finally, a text. Please. I need to explain. I didn't think you'd actually do this. I stared at that message for a long time. Didn't think I'd actually do this. Like my code was just community property she could borrow without asking. Like my work, my foundation, my years of building something that mattered. Those were just resources for her ambition. I deleted the text without responding. At 6:15 p.m., Nathan called. I answered this time. She's gone, Nathan said, sounding exhausted. Security walked her out the side entrance. She kept asking for you. Grant told her you'd already left. I was never there, I said. No, you weren't. He paused. Neil, I'm sorry. If I'd known what Grant was doing with your code. You didn't know. That's not on you. What happens now? Now. I leaned back in my chair, watched the evening light fade through my office window. Now Tech Vance decides whether they want to fight this in court or settle. Either way, Synergy Flow is dead, Charlotte's career is finished, and everyone who stood on that stage tonight looks like either a thief or a fool. And you? I go back to being invisible, I said. It's what I do best. Charlotte's car pulled in the driveway at 7:43 p.m. I watched from the upstairs window as she sat there for several minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, not moving. Finally, she got out, walked to the front door. The key didn't work. I'd changed the locks that morning. Not out of spite, just practicality. The house was titled under the Redwood Trust, same legal entity that held Beacon Core's licensing rights. Everything had been structured that way since before we married. Charlotte had never been on the deed, never a trustee, just listed as an emergency contact. She tried the key again, jiggling it like maybe the lock was just stuck. Then she noticed the envelope taped to the door. Inside was a single document, notice of access revocation. The house, the cars, the joint accounts, everything had been transferred or frozen. She had access to nothing except the clothes in her closet and whatever was in her personal accounts. She tore the envelope open right there on the porch, read it under the motion sensor light. I saw her face contort, saw her shoulders start shaking. Then she pounded on the door. Neil, open the door. We need to talk about this. I stayed where I was, upstairs, watching. Please. Her voice broke. I know you're in there. Just let me explain. The porch light sensor timed out. She stood in darkness, still pounding, her silhouette barely visible against the street lights. I didn't mean for this to happen, she shouted. Grant said it was fine. He said the code was old, that nobody would care. Neil, please. I pulled out my phone, texted Oliver. She's at the house. Should I call the police? His response came immediately. Not yet. Let her exhaust herself. Document everything, but don't engage. The more desperate she appears, the better for our case. Charlotte tried the doorbell. It rang through the house, insistent and pathetic. I didn't move. She pulled out her phone, called me. I watched it ring on a nightstand, didn't touch it. After 20 minutes, she gave up. Walked back to her car, shoulders hunched, defeated. She sat in the driver's seat for another 10 minutes, just staring at the house. Then she started the engine and drove away. My phone buzzed. Text from Nathan. Board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Grant's trying to spin this as a rogue employee situation. Legal team, shut him down. They want to settle with you before this goes public. I replied, Oliver handles all negotiations. They can contact him. Another buzz, this time Rebecca. Lily asked why Charlotte isn't at dinner this weekend. I told her you and Charlotte are having grown-up problems. She's worried about you. Tell her I'm fine. Better than fine. Rebecca, are you though? I looked around the empty house. Charlotte's magazine still on the coffee table, her jacket on the coat rack, her coffee mug in the sink from this morning. Evidence of a life that had already ended, just waiting for someone to clear away the remnants. I'm exactly where I need to be, I texted back. Outside, the October wind rattled the windows. Inside, the silence was perfect. The coffee shop on Hawthorne was quiet on Sunday morning. Lily sat across from me, picking at a blueberry muffin, her 16-year-old face carrying an expression too old for her years. Dad, she said finally, I need to tell you something. About Charlotte. I set down my coffee. What about her? 2 weeks ago, I came home early from school. Teacher conference got canceled. She looked down at her plate. Charlotte was on the phone in your office. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but she was talking loud. What did she say? Lily's voice went quiet. She was talking to someone about getting rid of dead weight and baggage. Dad, she meant us. You and me. The words hit like a physical thing. I kept my face neutral, but my hands tightened around the coffee cup. Tell me exactly what you heard. She said, once this launch happens and the money comes through, I can finally cut loose the dead weight. Him and his baggage, both gone. Lily's eyes were wet. She called me baggage, Dad. And when the person asked what she meant, she laughed and said, his kid from the previous marriage. Sweet girl, but not mine to worry about. I reached across the table, took her hand. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared. I thought maybe I heard it wrong. Or maybe she was just venting. But then I saw how she treated you at those company events, like you were furniture. And I knew I hadn't heard it wrong. Lily, you did nothing wrong. You understand that. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Is that why you're doing all this? The legal stuff? Part of it, I admitted. But mostly because she stole my work and thought I wouldn't notice or wouldn't care. The rest just made it easier to know I was doing the right thing. Good, Lily said fiercely. I'm glad you're fighting back. Mom always said you were too nice, that people took advantage of that. But you're not being nice now, and I think that's exactly right. Rebecca had raised our daughter well. Strong, perceptive, not afraid to call things what they were. Your mom helped me with this, I said. Behind the scenes, with all the legal work. Lily smiled through her tears. You guys are the best divorced people ever. Charlotte never understood that. My phone buzzed. Oliver Stone, TechVance lawyers just called. They want to meet tomorrow. They're desperate to settle before this hits the press. I showed Lily the message. She read it, then looked up at me with satisfaction in her eyes. Are you going to make them pay? Every single dollar they owe, I said. Good. She squeezed my hand. Dad, I'm really proud of you. For standing up for yourself. For not letting her get away with it. That meant more than any settlement ever could. We finished our coffee in comfortable silence, then walked along Hawthorne, past the vintage shops and record stores. October in Portland was perfect, cool air and colored leaves, and the sense that anything could change at any moment. My phone rang. Nathan Pierce. Neil, you need to hear this. Grant just tried to throw Charlotte under the bus with the investors. Told them she was the one who brought the stolen code, that he had no idea about the licensing issues. Is that true? Partially. But I pulled up the emails. Grant knew something was off. He just didn't care because Synergy Flow was working and bringing in money. He's as guilty as she is. What are the investors saying? Nathan laughed, bitter. They're pulling out. All of them. TechVance is going to be bankrupt within a month. And Grant. Board's meeting Tuesday to discuss his removal. This is over, Neil. You won one. I looked at Lily, walking beside me with her hands in her jacket pockets, looking more peaceful than I'd seen her in months. Yeah, I said. I did. The conference room at Oliver Stone's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Portland. TechVance's legal team sat on one side of the table, looking like they'd aged a decade in 3 days. Grant Hudson wasn't with them. Too smart to show his face, or too ashamed. Oliver sat beside me, calm and lethal. Rebecca was there too, representing the IP side of things. Across from us were 3 lawyers in expensive suits who knew they had no leverage. The lead counsel, a woman named Patricia Thornton, opened her briefcase and slid a document across the table. Our settlement offer, $4.2 million, paid over 18 months. In exchange, you agree to license Beacon Core to TechVance for continued limited use. Oliver didn't even look at the document. No. Patricia blinked. I'm sorry. No license, no limited use, no installment payments. Oliver's voice was pleasant, conversational. Here's our counteroffer. $6 million, paid in full within 30 days. TechVance ceases all use of any code derived from Beacon Core immediately. You issue a public statement acknowledging the licensing violation and Mr. Reynolds' ownership of the core technology. That's insane, one of the other lawyers sputtered. That would destroy what's left of the company. The company destroyed itself, Rebecca said quietly, when it decided to steal my client's intellectual property. Patricia's jaw tightened. We can't agree to a public statement. The reputational damage would be catastrophic. I spoke for the first time. Your reputation should be catastrophic. You launched a product built on stolen code. You let my wife help you steal it. And when you got caught, Grant Hudson tried to blame her for everything while pretending he didn't know. Mr. Reynolds, I'm not finished. I leaned forward, kept my voice level. Charlotte knew what she was doing, but so did Grant. I have emails proving he was aware the code had unclear origins, as he put it. He chose not to look closer because it was working. That's not an excuse. That's knowing complicity. Patricia exchanged glances with her colleagues. They'd come prepared to negotiate from a position of strength, and they were realizing they had none. What if we agree to $5 million, she tried, and a private acknowledgement of the violation? No public statement, but full payment within 60 days. Oliver looked at me. I shook my head. 6 million, 30 days, public statement, Oliver repeated. Or we go to court, discovery exposes every corner of your operation, and the judgment will be significantly higher. Plus legal fees. Plus the time and publicity of a trial. The silence stretched out. Through the windows, Portland sprawled beneath a gray November sky. Rain was coming, you could feel it in the air. We'll need to consult with our client, Patricia said finally. You have until 5 p.m. today, Oliver said. After that, we file suit tomorrow morning. They left looking defeated. Oliver closed his briefcase with a satisfied click. They'll accept, he said. They have no choice. Rebecca smiled. Almost feel sorry for them. Almost. Don't, I said. They made their choices. At 4:47 p.m., Patricia called. They accepted every term. $6 million, 30 days, public acknowledgement of the violation. TechVance would cease all operations related to Synergy Flow immediately. Oliver sent me the confirmation email, and I forwarded it to Nathan. His response, Grant resigned this morning. Board accepted it immediately. Charlotte's been trying to reach him. He blocked her number. Fitting. She'd helped him build his empire on my foundation, and the moment it collapsed, he disappeared. I drove home as the rain started, steady and cold. Lily was there when I arrived, doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up as I walked in. How'd it go? They settled. Everything we asked for. She jumped up and hugged me. Dad, that's amazing. It's over, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I believed it. My phone buzzed one last time that night. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything I worked for. Charlotte. She got a new number just to send that. I read it twice, then blocked this number too. She still didn't understand. I hadn't destroyed what she'd worked for. She'd built her career on stolen ground, and when the foundation gave way, she blamed everyone but herself. I deleted the message and went to bed. Tomorrow, the settlement would be official. Next week, the public statement would go out. And after that, I could finally go back to building things without looking over my shoulder. The coffee shop where Grant Hudson found me was a dive on the east side, the kind of place where nobody wore suits or talked about disruption. I've been coming here for years, back when Charlotte thought it was beneath her to drink coffee that didn't come from a place with Edison bulbs and reclaimed wood. Grant stood in the doorway, scanning the room until he spotted me. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, the kind of exhaustion that comes from watching your world burn and knowing you lit the match. He walked over, didn't ask permission, just sat down across from me. Neil, he said. I didn't respond, just kept drinking my coffee. I came to ask you to reconsider the public statement. Not for me, for the people who are going to lose their jobs when TechVance folds. Good people who had nothing to do with this. I set down my cup. You should have thought about them before you built your company on stolen code. I didn't know it was stolen. Charlotte said it was licensed, said everything was legal. Did you ask to see the license? Did you verify the terms? Or did you just take her word for it, because the code worked, and you didn't want to slow down your precious launch? His jaw tightened. I trusted my employee. You trusted your employee to do something unethical because it benefited you. That's not trust, Grant. That's willful ignorance. I leaned forward. You remember what you said to me at the launch? That I was just Charlotte's husband, that I tagged along sometimes, that I was probably bored. He looked away. You dismissed me because I didn't perform confidence the way you do, because I don't golf at country clubs or wear $1,000 watches. You thought quiet meant weak. I kept my voice level, conversational, but you forgot something important. The people who build the foundations, who write the code that makes everything else possible, we're not weak. We're just selective about when we show our strength. Grant's hand was shaking. What do you want from me? I've lost everything. My company, my reputation, my savings are going into your settlement. What more do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't steal from people just because you think they won't fight back. And I want you to remember this feeling, this exact moment, so you never do it again. He stood up slowly. You got your revenge, Neil. I hope it was worth it. It wasn't revenge, I said. It was justice. There's a difference. He walked out without another word. Through the window, I watched him get into a 10-year-old Honda Civic. The expensive car was probably repossessed already, along with everything else he'd built on borrowed foundations. Nathan texted me an hour later. Grant just cleaned out his office. Security escorted him out. It's really over. My phone rang. Charlotte. I'd unblocked her number that morning, knowing this call would come eventually. I answered. Neil. Her voice was raw, exhausted. Grant just told me he tried to see you. He did. Did you tell him to go to hell? I told him the truth. That he made his choices, and now he's living with them. Same as you. Silence on the line. Then, I never meant to hurt you. You meant to use me. You meant to steal my work. You meant to climb over me to get where you wanted to be. The hurt was just collateral damage you didn't think about. That's not fair. Charlotte, you call me deadweight. You call my daughter baggage. You told your boss I was too passive to fight back. Everything that's happening now, you built this. Not me. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. I was wrong about everything. Yes, I agreed. You were. What happens now? Now, you figure out your next move. Find a new career, maybe something where you can't steal other people's work. And I go back to my life, the one I had before you decided I wasn't ambitious enough for you. Neil. Goodbye, Charlotte. I hung up, blocked her number again. Final this time. Outside, November rain turned the streets dark and slick. Portland in winter, cold and cleansing. I finished my coffee and headed home, where Lily was waiting with Rebecca. We'd planned a quiet dinner, just the three of us. A reminder that family wasn't always about marriage. Sometimes it was about the people who stayed when everything fell apart. 8 months after the settlement, life had found a new rhythm. The $6 million sat in various accounts and trusts, more money than I'd ever expected to see. I put half in an education fund for Lily, invested another chunk in Rebecca's expanding law practice, and donated $1 million to a coding scholarship program for kids in underserved communities. The rest was just numbers in a spreadsheet. It didn't make me happier. What made me happy was the quiet. TechVance had folded completely by March. The public statement about the IP violation had destroyed what little investor confidence remained. Grant Hudson had moved to Arizona, reportedly working as a consultant for a mid-sized logistics firm. Nathan Pierce had landed at a startup in Seattle, texted me occasionally to say things were good. Charlotte had disappeared from the Portland tech scene entirely. Last I heard, she was working in marketing for a dental supply company in Sacramento. Far from the glamorous disruption she'd chased so desperately. I didn't feel satisfied by her fall. Didn't feel anything really. She'd become a cautionary tale, a footnote, and that was punishment enough. Lily was thriving. Junior year of high school, already getting recruitment letters from universities. She wanted to study law like her mother, maybe focus on intellectual property. Rebecca beamed with pride every time Lily talked about her future. We had dinner together most Sundays now, the three of us. Rebecca and I never remarried, never even considered it. But we built something better than a second chance at romance. We built a partnership based on respect, shared goals, and genuine affection. Turned out you didn't need marriage vows to have a family. One Saturday in June, I was in my office when my email pinged. A message from a venture capital firm in San Francisco. They'd heard about Beacon Core, about the TechVance situation, and they wanted to know if I was interested in developing new systems with proper funding and legal protection. I stared at the email for a long time. The old me, the one who married Charlotte and thought ambition meant constant growth, would have jumped at it. But I wasn't that person anymore. I wrote back, "Thank you for the interest, but I'm not looking to scale up right now. I'm content building things at my own pace, on my own terms. If that changes, I'll reach out." Hit send. Close my laptop. Through the window, I could see Lily and Rebecca in the backyard, laughing about something. The late afternoon sun made everything golden. This was enough. More than enough. My phone buzzed. Oliver Stone. Got a call from another firm, tried to license Beacon Core. Wanting to handle it. Were the terms? Fair. Respectful. They actually did their homework this time. Sent the whole team's backgrounds. No hidden affiliations. Then yes. Draw up the standard agreement. But Oliver, add one more clause. If they ever make me feel invisible, the license terminates immediately. That's not legally binding. I know, but it'll make them think twice. He sent back a laughing emoji, promised to have documents ready by Monday. I walked outside, joined Lily and Rebecca at the patio table. They were planning a road trip for Lily's spring break next year, talking about national parks and bad roadside attractions. "Dad, you in?" Lily asked. "Mom says you used to be decent at camping before you turned into a full-time code hermit." "I can still pitch a tent," I protested. Rebecca grinned. "We'll see about that." We spent the evening making plans, drinking iced tea, watching the sky turn purple and orange. No talk of business, of lawsuits, of people who'd betrayed us. Just the easy conversation of people who'd survived the fire and come out stronger. Later, after Rebecca and Lily had left, I sat on the porch alone. The neighborhood was quiet, just the sound of distant traffic and wind in the trees. My phone stayed silent. No desperate texts from unknown numbers. No more begging for second chances. Charlotte had finally stopped trying to reach me. Maybe she'd found her own peace, or maybe she'd just run out of new phone numbers. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I'd learned something important through all of this. Strength wasn't about being loud or visible or demanding attention. Strength was about knowing your worth, protecting what you built, and not backing down when someone tried to take it from you. I'd been invisible for years, by choice and by circumstance. But invisible didn't mean powerless. Sometimes the quietest people carried the biggest hammers. And when they finally swung, the whole world felt it.